I'm gonna cook up a batch of super crispy wings, and I'm gonna do a little bit of a test while I do it. So I have some wings just split up into 2 different bowls. Just gonna get these seasoned up, a little salt on this first batch, and then a little bit of garlic powder and pepper. You can add any spice blend you really want. I'm keeping it simple because I'm really going for the crispy factor on this. And this just needs a little bit of oil to help the crispiness along as well in the oven. Get that all well coated. Moisture, of course, is the enemy of crispiness, so I made sure that these were really, really dry. And then going with my seasoning blend. So the secret weapon here is baking powder. I just need a little bit, just make sure we evenly coat all those wings. You won't taste it, but it'll help draw out moisture from the skin. Now, this isn't just for wings. You can do this with so many things. I've done this with my turkey to get a really crispy skin on my Thanksgiving turkey. When it comes to chicken and a crispy skin in the oven, just use this baking powder technique. If you have a little time and patience, here's what I suggest. Go ahead and salt it, make sure that salt is evenly coated, and then put some baking powder on there. Let it hang out in the fridge on a sheet tray overnight. The next day you might notice there's a little moisture on there. Go ahead and pat the chicken dry again, and then go ahead and season it, oil, and then you can cook it. Overnight, what it's gonna do is even draw out even more moisture from that skin, and that salt's gonna infuse into the meat, so you're gonna get really flavorful meat and the perfect consistency for skin. So that's what I recommend if you're doing a whole chicken or a turkey with this method. Go ahead and take the time, plan ahead. So usually you wanna give these plenty of room. I'm trying to do 2 test batches on 1 tray. I like the fattier side up first. That'll render down. That's the part you want to get the most exposure to the heat to get it really crispy. All right, make sure we get good separation of these 2 batches for scientific purposes. We have our non-baking powder batch, our baking powder batch, and I'm gonna throw these in the oven and we'll see what happens. Halfway through cooking, we just need to give them a little flip. But I can already tell these are crisping up so nicely. We got some browning happening, and we are ready. Look at these sizzling beauties. So this is how our chicken wings turned out. I can immediately tell the side with the baking powder is a lot drier on the outside. It's less shiny and super crispy, while this side is still a little fatty. I mean, I'm not gonna turn down a chicken wing. These are still delicious, but you can tell that they are lacking a little bit of that browning and crispiness that you get with the baking powder. The one with baking powder, you can tell is a lot drier and crispier, while this one, I can see a little bit of moisture. It's nice and brown, and it is crispy, but I can tell a texture difference just by looking at it. My technique, I remove one of the bones in the flat and just eat the whole thing. I love chicken wings. Wait, wing number 2, our crispy fellow. Fingers are on fire. Look at all that steam trapped in there because the skin, crispy coating trapped it in there. Snack on that one. Let this vent out. Look at that steam. Oh, this one's coming clean out, so all we're left with is just chicken and crispiness. All right, here we go. You can hear the difference. Crispity, crunchity, without the fryer. For me, this is like chicken bacon, you know? It's crispy, it's salty, it's savory. Delicious. I've had some beef chilling in the refrigerator a little bit. This is an age-old technique to get thin slices. You just firm up your protein in the freezer for a little bit, and that way you can get as thin a slice as you want. Make sure it's not completely frozen. It's much harder for a knife to get through meat that's completely frozen. So I just put it in there maybe 10, 15 minutes. It'll just make it a bit firmer to make cutting easier. This is where this works the best. Cheaper cuts of meat, a little tougher. You're gonna do this velveting process that helps break them down, make them more tender, more juicy. It's just a fun restaurant technique you can try at home for crispy beef. And this just isn't for those traditional, Chinese, Asian American recipes. This can be for any beef recipe, beef stroganoff, any kind of, beef and rice. You go crazy. So traditionally this is done for beef. You can also do this with chicken. Chicken's pretty tender on its own, but for that really soft, juicy chicken, you can also do this baking soda technique. So here's how I do it. You can do this in a bowl, but I just scatter the beef out. Do this with my hands. I just take a little bit of baking soda, give an even sprinkle all the way around. This just affects the chemistry of the meat. It doesn't really add a flavor, but we're basically just gonna toss this around just like it's a seasoning. I usually do maybe 1-2 teaspoons for this. I usually don't use an exact measurement and just kind of eyeball it, but that's all we're looking for. Mix up the meat, get it well coated, and let it hang out in the refrigerator. So I'm just gonna pop it in a bowl, clear my cutting board, wash my hands, and just hang out for a minute. Here's a batch I prepared earlier. It's just been hanging out in the refrigerator. Now I'm gonna rinse this off, get it extra dry. And even right now, you can kind of tell the beef has a different texture. It's a little bit softer, a little bit more pliable. You wanna make sure you're using cold water. Now you can cook it up like this if you just wanna saute the beef, but another step that helps with the velveting is adding some cornstarch. A little cornstarch is another key ingredient. This will coat the meat, and then as it cooks, will create like a protective barrier on the outside to keep all the juices inside. This is also the point where you can season things up. I'm gonna add a sauce, so I'm just doing a little bit of salt on here. You can add soy sauce to this if you are doing a stir fry, a little Worcestershire if you're doing something like a Philly cheesesteak or steak sandwich with this meat. Really, the possibilities are quite endless. Add some oil, let that heat through a little bit. When it's nice and shiny and glossy, should be good to go. Then that beef goes right into the pan. You wanna make sure you get it into an even layer. Keep things moving around, make sure that oil coats everything. Might add a touch more oil for this. One of the characteristics of velveting meat, you'll see that the meat is nice and red. That means the baking soda was working. If you're making a bigger portion, you wanna definitely do this in batches. I'm kind of making this work in this skillet. Velveting is perfect when you wanna cook beef really quick, but keep it tender and juicy. Go ahead, take the extra time, the extra step to do the velveting. Those inexpensive cuts of meat are great, but they're more intended for stews, longer cooking processes to break down all that connective tissue and really make the meat nice, juicy, and tender. This is a shortcut where you can cook hot and fast, get a meal on the table really quick, and also have really tender, flavorful meat. If you don't do this, you run the risk of it being a little tough and chewy. The thinner you slice the beef too, that can help a lot as well. All right, this is almost done cooking through, so I'm gonna transfer it to a bowl, put that to the side, and start on my next step. Usually you can keep sauteing. I just cleaned out my pan a little bit, and I'm gonna go in with a little bit more oil, get that heated up, go in with some onions, just soften those a little bit of garlic. I'm gonna add back in my beef. I mean, I guess this is a classic combination, beef and onions, right? It smells so beefy. I can smell those onions. I just made a little sauce, some cornstarch, soy sauce, a little sesame oil, nothing too crazy. Now's the time that beef's gonna finish cooking through. The sauce will bubble up and get thick. Ooh, that soy sauce smells so good. Right, we're almost there. Those onions are soft. That beef is just about cooked through. Have one more addition, more onions. Just a little pop of green, some green onion slices. Cut the heat, and our dish is ready to go. When it's just you in the kitchen, well, you and other people watching you cook, you can just eat right out of the skillet. Why not? There we go. Nice, flavorful, tender beef. Super hot, super steamy. Nice, silky, soft. When you bite into beef, you're expecting that chewing. But this gives it a tenderness, a juiciness, just by doing an extra step with some baking soda and velveting the meat. A takeaway you can do at home. If you're a fan of gooey, creamy cheese sauces, this is the one secret you need. I've made a ton of cheese sauces, cheese dip like a queso or even mac and cheese, and I usually do the roux combination, but this is the chemistry that'll give you super gooey cheese sauce. It's sodium citrate, which is a type of salt that helps cheeses combine and emulsify better with liquid. It's one of the contributing ingredients to our favorite processed cheeses like these singles or Velveeta. Those creamy gooey cheeses use a sodium citrate to help achieve that through chemistry. This is something you can do right at home. I have my favorite ingredient, super ingredient baking soda. I'm just gonna do 5 teaspoons of this. And then you need a citric acid powder. So I'm gonna do 4 of these in with the baking soda. But these are super common ingredients you can find in most grocery stores. But citric acid is something you may not notice or may not have, but you can easily find it in grocery stores. Citric acid you can use in both culinary applications and cleaning around the house. Same goes for baking soda. So having these two ingredients ensures you have multiple uses for them and making this creamy, gooey cheese sauce. So I don't want this milk to scald on the bottom, so I'm just gonna move it around a little bit. I'm gonna do 2 teaspoons of this in this liquid, and we should see the chemical reaction happening, all that foaming and bubbling we're used to when it comes to baking soda. Just be careful, make sure you have a large enough pot because this is foaming up. So another alternative, if you can't find citric acid, you can use a lime. Just juice up a lime, add some baking soda to it. Once the baking soda reacts with the lime, you'll be left with the sodium citrate as a residual compound, and then you can just go ahead and make your recipe as follows. So just getting this mixed up. Now we don't want this liquid to really bubble or boil. Just looking for a light simmer, just enough to melt the cheese. Now I'm doing a white cheese sauce. I just have a Mexican melting cheese like a queso blanco and some white cheddar. Can really mix up the cheeses. It does work better with, more traditional melty cheeses than maybe your hard cheeses. So those bubbles are going down. So in this pan, we put in baking soda and the citric acid. What we're left with is just the sodium citrate. I was a big science kid growing up. I loved all things science. And I think I have an affinity for cooking because it really is so based in science and chemistry. I'm just gonna taste this liquid, not necessarily for the flavor, but just to experience if it is citrusy at all. It has a salty savoriness to it. It's very milky, but you cannot taste the citric acid because that acid has been completely neutralized by the baking soda. So now I just have to get my cheese in there. And I usually like to do a little at a time. Whenever I'm making a cheese sauce, just slow, gentle melting will give you the best results. I might need more cheese. I got a lot of liquid. But I can already tell that cheese is just melting so smoothly. One thing that's common with cheese sauces too is they seize up, so they're really thick and firm, and it's really hard to get that melty cheese to incorporate into the liquid. The sodium citrate really helps that process. Makes things a lot smoother, both the process and the consistency. Never be conservative when it comes to cheese, just go wild. The more cheese, the better. That's what I'm talking about. But I mean, you can't get much creamier and smooth and gooey than that. We don't have clumps of cheese not combining with the liquid. It's not oily. So I have to taste it. Dipping a chip in. Melty, creamy, tasty cheese. Now, of course, you can season this up however you want. If you're going more queso route, maybe some chili powder, some green chili, some cumin, go wild. Or you can add in any flavors depending on what you're creating. Now that is a gooey, creamy cheese sauce. I think cooks are turning the corner when it comes to MSG. I've been seeing it used a lot more in recipes. And I want to kind of dispel the myths and rumors about MSG. It's been long feared in recipes, but it actually is a flavor enhancer. So it's a tool you can use in some special dishes to make it taste that much better. Thought I would do a little bit of comparison. I'm just gonna whip up some scrambled eggs, super simple. Get some butter in this pan real quick, get that melted. So in this one, this is just gonna be my salted version. I mean, what could be simpler than a little batch of scrambled eggs? If you wanna test a seasoning and ingredient, go ahead and add it to some eggs. It's really low effort, and you can really taste the flavor profile of whatever you're testing. So it's still funny to say it, because anytime I say MSG, in our society, it seems like a dirty word. It seems like something that like, oh, you put MSG in that. But guess what? So much of the food you're consuming either naturally has MSG or has it in it because you're eating a snack or something else. So I'm sure most people are consuming MSG pretty regularly, just not as an additive for their food. But you can use it to make things taste so much better. It's not synthetic or artificial, it is just a flavor booster. Actually nice to make eggs over lower heat. They stay fluffier, creamier. Those are almost done. I'm gonna let those sit for a minute while I work on batch 2, which is gonna have our secret ingredient in there. And a little goes a long way here. You really don't need much at all. You can use MSG as a replacement for salt, but it does kind of have a different flavor profile. So I usually use it in combination with salt. So you can go a little lighter on the salt and maybe add a little MSG. Now MSG is basically just waking up and opening up your taste buds and making things just taste a little bit more, you know, people say umami, just gives you a more savory flavor. In the normal grocery store, you'll probably see this brand. This is just MSG by itself. In international markets, you might see bags of MSG. You can also get it online. So MSG is pretty accessible in most stores. Let's go with our A eggs. These are the ones with just a little bit of salt in there. Delightful, fluffy, creamy eggs. Funny, egg yolks themselves have a little bit of MSG in it. So when I say MSG is naturally occurring in some foods, in egg yolks, there's some MSG already. Now here's our B eggs, the ones with MSG in them. Instantly, like a flavor punch. It's incredible the difference. In batch A, I'm just tasting the salt really as the flavor, while these, I'm tasting egg as the flavor. It's a secret ingredient because you're not actually tasting the MSG, you're tasting the food itself. It just is a bomb of flavor. We're gonna do a little test. Ooh, it's a lot. Don't need that much, just a little bit. Will go a long way. It's so interesting. It doesn't taste salty, it just tastes, this is the weirdest way to explain this, but it just tastes like flavor. It just tastes like, there's taste, there's flavor. So this really does wake up your taste buds and enhance the flavor of any dish. Butter can make just about any recipe better, but what's even better than butter is brown butter. I use brown butter a lot in baking, but you can use it in savory dishes as well. So I'm just chopping up some butter, getting it melted over medium heat. When you're browning butter, you don't want it to cook too quickly. So I like to go low and slow to start, and then you can raise your temperature up till it's melty and bubbly. We're not burning it, we're toasting it. You do want to keep an eye on this. Anytime you're browning butter, don't walk away. What I like to do if I'm making any recipe with brown butter is I have everything prepared, because as soon as this brown butter is ready, we want to go with the rest of the steps. It definitely helps to use a light color pan. If you're using a dark color pan, you won't be able to see those bits brown up. So I like a stainless steel pan or a light coated pan. So it will bubble and foam quite a bit. When those bubbles subside, that's when the toasting usually starts to happen. All the bubbling is all the liquid evaporating from the butter. So it's starting to happen, and usually I remove the pan. The pan has enough residual heat to toast up the butter. You don't want it to burn. It's getting there. You'll also start to smell it. You'll smell this toasty nuttiness. So your nose and your eyeballs are two keys to making perfect brown butter. We're gonna add some garlic. Give that just a couple seconds. But you can see all that brown in the pan. That's where all the flavor is, all the caramelization, all that. You might have heard Maillard reaction. It's just all the brown toasty goodness. Gonna get my pasta in. This is just a bit of bucatini for this brown butter garlic pasta. Super simple, great side dish, a perfect dinner on its own. I'm making this pasta, but this is good for so many things. Brown butter is a great base to sauces. If you're making a super simple sauce, just brown the butter. It'll give a nutty taste in the background, and anybody eating your food will be like, oh, what is that? What do I sense in here? That's a little different. Never be afraid of shortcuts. I usually do fresh grated, but this was the easiest option. They were actually out of Parmesan cheese, like a wedge of it, and this was the best thing they had, so we're going with this today. When you're doing pasta, a little bit of your pasta water, save that. Helps emulsify things together, get things nice and saucy, especially combined with brown butter. Yeah, even a side dish, even a pasta can be super simple. It comes down to technique, like browning the butter to make it extra special. That was really good. It's super creamy, super buttery, but has a complexity that's subtle but interesting. So good. We're almost there. So even in this recipe, you're really not seeing the brown butter, but the flavor is definitely in there. Lots of that garlic. Just gonna finish this off with a little more parsley, little color, little herby flavor. Can't go wrong with garlic. I'd like to overloaded it with garlic.
Perfect.
Here's another batch of brown butter I'm making. You can see the nice toasty brown bits. That's all those milk solids that are nice and caramelized. And this smells incredible. That's the one indicator that you know you've made the best brown butter is the smell. And that flavor is gonna shine through to any dish you use it in. Any recipe, any dish you make that calls for butter, go ahead and brown up the butter and it'll give you that additional flavor and make that recipe extra special. So I do this a lot of times in chocolate chip cookies and in other baked goods. I mean, even if you're making morning pancakes, go ahead and brown your butter. That's just gonna make it even more incredible. So a lot of times when I'm making brown butter, you wanna get it out of that pan pretty quickly. The hot pan will keep toasting and browning it. So I just transfer it to a bowl so it can cool quickly and not burn. Burnt butter, not good. Brown butter, extra good. Some recipes that even called for, like a chilled or a cold butter, maybe you're combining it with other ingredients, you can go ahead and chill this. It'll re-solidify and you can use it. But I like to use it in its liquid form, just like this. Just spoon it over your recipes, chicken, especially seafood, vegetables. Just makes them extra flavorful.